Hello and welcome to the Kentucky Spring 2022 DAC Training for Operational Testing. I am Scott Wilson from Pearson, and I will be talking you through the slides today. First off, we'll start with an overview. So for spring 2022, we will be testing grades 3 through 8, 10, and 11. The contents for each grade are listed here. Also note that all grades will be taking the Quality of School Climate and Safety Survey, along with the other contents that are listed here. For the online test, we wanted to provide a little bit of timing guidance. So for all of the different contents, this is approximately the longest that the test should take. Some will be a little shorter, some will be a little longer, maybe, depending on the student. TestNav will not shut off on students once the time is up. It will not shut off and kick a student off of testing. Some general testing information. Students should be able to complete the test in a single continuous test session per content area. There may be some exceptions for students with accommodations. Also, only mathematics that has Part A and Part B may be tested over multiple days. Multiple test sessions may be scheduled each day for each content area. Next, we'll go into some of the important dates that you need to know. So the next couple slides have a lot of information on the dates that you need to know. When you can start creating user accounts, when you can create test sessions, dates when you need to order additional, do your accommodated materials via additional orders, preparing sessions, printing test tickets, and starting and monitoring sessions. Again, this second slide here, 4 dates, shows important dates for the back, for the technology staff, test administrators, and even for the students. Next, we're going to go over some specific steps to prepare for the operational online testing. First off, for operational testing, accommodations, we will have large print in paper, Braille in paper, and text-to-speech online. For all students that are using paper accommodations, they will be tested with a test book and a student response book. These kits with all the accommodation materials will be ordered in Pearson Access Next via the additional order screen. And that is similar to what we've done in the past. For human readers, we ask you refer to the online testing toolbox for that purpose. For the large print and Braille accommodation kits, here is listed the material that you will receive. So for large print, you'll have the printed test book, a regular test book and student response book, rulers, and the accommodation memo. Braille, you'll get UEB or Nemeth, Braille book, the regular test book and student response book, test administration notes, and the accommodation memo. To order your accommodated test kits, similar to what you've done in the past, These will be ordered via additional orders. You can order accommodated test materials March 21st through June 13th. The last day to order for test materials is actually May 31st, but return materials can be ordered until June 13th. The process for ordering this can be found in the navigational instructions for Pearson Access, and those instructions are located at the link here on the Kentucky portal. When you go to that page, click on Pearson Access Next, then click on the Pearson Access Next navigational instructions. Next, we have information about the text-to-speech. For spring 22, the text-to-speech functionality will be available. This will be online and students will be placed into test sessions. For student to receive the text-to-speech functionality, it will need to be added to the student record in Pearson Access. This is the same process that we used last year, and there are two options. The first option is the DAC or the BAC can enter the information into Pearson Access Next. Or the second option is the DAC or the BAC can export a file from Pearson Access Next, make the updates on the student record on the file, and then import the file back into Pearson Access Next. So turning on the text-to-speech, there are actually two boxes that are shown here, and they need to be checked. So as we mentioned on the previous slide, there's two ways for the DAC or the BAC to select these boxes. If the one option, the first option, you go to the user interface, go to each student that needs this, and you will select both boxes. The other option is what we talked about, exporting a file, indicate TTS on that and then reload the file, and these boxes will be clicked automatically for the students that are updated in that file. New for spring 22, the DACs and BACs will have the ability to turn on the online calculator in all parts of a test for students whose IEP indicates they are eligible for the online calculator. For a student to receive the IEP calculator, it will need to be turned on in Pearson Access Next. This is similar to how we turn on the text-to-speech. Again, there are two options. The DAC or BAC can enter the information directly into Pearson Access Next, or the DAC or BAC can export a file from Pearson Access Next, make the updates, and then load that file back into Pearson Access Next. Here is the box that needs to be checked for the IEP calculator. And again, as mentioned on the previous slide, there's two ways to do it. The first option, you go into the user interface, into the student record and select the box. The other option is by exporting a file, updating the records on that file for the students who need the IEP calculator, and then importing that file back. This is a new process. We are creating specific instructions and detailed information, and it will be on the Kentucky portal under the Pearson Access Next Guidance Documents tab. Okay, for 2022, we do have a new Proctor read aloud process. So for spring 22, test administrators will be able to log into their own test on TestNav instead of having to read over a student's shoulder or using a paper copy of the test to read it to students. Again, this is a new process, so similar to the IEP Calculator, we are creating specific instructions, and this will be available on the Kentucky portal under the Pearson Access Next Guidance Documents tab. All right, the next screen is something you've probably seen before. It's the additional orders and how to order your paper accommodated materials. You'll click on Setup, click the Orders and Shipment Tracking, click the Select Tasks, and then Create and Edit Orders, and you'll click Start. Once you click Start, the next page is a screenshot for additional order. You'll enter a date. Please allow at least 2 days before testing so that we can get it to you. Click the drop-down arrow and then add the items at the bottom. Here is that information where you put the date needed, and then you add the materials and you click Create. Once the additional order is entered, you will see this. It will list the materials that you've ordered, and then click Save. Creating test sessions. This is the same as it has been the last few years. You can begin to create your sessions on March 7th. Again, you'll need to create sessions for every content and every grade. And also the survey will have its own session. It is tested for grade bands, so there's a survey for grades 3 through 5 and one for grades 6 through 11. Remember that each session will only contain one content and one grade level. For example, you cannot have a session that has some students that have a reading test and other students that have a math test. All of the students in the session must have the same content. Again, on the Kentucky portal, you can find all of the information and instructions on creating test sessions. Again, same as in the past, once your sessions are created, you'll have to prepare the sessions. All sessions must be prepared before they can be starting. What this does, preparing the session actually assigns the correct form to each student within the session. One thing to note, if you have a student that needs the text-to-speech accommodation, you must add the accommodation to their record before the session is prepared. You can prepare their test sessions 1 to 2 weeks prior to testing. And again, on the portal, Kentucky portal, you'll find instructions and information about all of this on the Creating Test Sessions guide. Again, you will need, as in the past, the test tickets for each student, and you'll need to know what the seal codes are. So each student will have a student testing ticket in order to sign into the online test. Each ticket will contain the student's unique username and a password. The testing tickets, the roster seal codes are secure documents and must be kept in a secure location until the test is administered. Testing tickets and seal codes should be printed at least 1 week prior to testing. Each student will have a testing ticket for each content they are taking, and each testing ticket is unique to each student and each session, so they must be used for the correct session. So if there's a student who's taking both reading and math, the test ticket for reading is specific for reading and math is specific for math. Additionally, you'll need to print out your seal codes. The seal codes are unique 4-digit numbers that are used to control the student access to each test section. There's only one seal code for reading, science, social studies, editing and mechanics, and on-demand writing. There are 2 seal codes for mathematics. One note, there are no seal codes for the quality of school climate and safety survey. Once the students are ready to test, the seal codes can be written on a whiteboard so all students can clearly see what the codes are for each part. Again, on the portal, you'll find instructions in the Creating Test Sessions guide. Here we have a sample student testing ticket. It'll have the student name, and then at the bottom is the username and password. I know a lot of students' names are similar. It's important that you get the right ticket to the right student. Here's a sample of a seal code sheet for math. This has part A and one for part B. All other contents, again, will only have one seal code. Starting test sessions and student testing. All the sessions, once you've created a session and prepared it, it must be started in Pearson Access Next before a student can log in through TestNav. In order to start sessions, you could do them one at a time, or you could start multiple sessions at the same time. Again, there are instructions on this on the Kentucky portal. All right, once the students are ready to test, again, be sure the student testing tickets for each session are kept separate. And then each time you hand out the student testing ticket, make sure the student verifies that it is their name on the testing ticket. Students will log into TestNav using the TestNav app. The test administrator will have the specific instructions for each grade and content on the script. Once the student is ready to go and the app is launched, the screen will appear, TestNav sign-in screen, and students will enter their username and password from their testing ticket. So this shows a picture of the TestNav app. The student will click on the TestNav app. Once they do that, the sign-in page will come up, or box. The student will enter their username and password. Once they do that, they will click sign in and they will be taken into the test. Once the students click the sign in, they will see the honor code. They will have to check the box in order to move forward. Then after the honor code is the first seal code. They will, once they enter that seal code, they will be able to start testing. When students are done, make sure that they submit their final answers before they exit out of TestNav. If they exit without submitting their answers, then their answers won't be picked up until the test is properly submitted. All right, next we want to talk about student transfers and new students. We know this happens a lot. There's a lot of students that move around. So any student that moves or transfers into your district or school will need to be tested. We do have the work request process in Pearson Access Next. This involves the DAC from where the student is coming and the DAC where the student is going. So that would be for a student that transfers in state from one district to the other. The work request process will be documented in the test administration manual. It's also on the next slide, but the DACs and BACs really need to monitor the work requests on PAN and approve any transfers from other districts. Here is the detail on the work request process. I'm not going to read all this to you, but this is the process. I think we've done this for a couple years, so many of you are probably already familiar with this. If a new student comes outside of Kentucky Public Schools, so if a student comes from another state, for example, they will have to be entered manually into Pearson Access Next. They must have a current SSID, and then you will go to Setup, select Students, then create and edit students, and then go Start, and you'll have a section there where you will enter all of the student information. After the student is entered into the system, they'll have to be registered. And since the student is new, they do not have a content already assigned. In these cases, you can select any content that you want when assigning the student's grade level content tests when you are registering the student. Here is an example of that screen that you will see when you are registering or entering a new student. And once that new student is entered, you'll have to register them. And that takes us to the end of our training for the operation for spring 2022. I know a lot of folks may have questions. There are a few new processes this year. Once you've had a chance to listen to this recording, KDE is planning on having multiple regional Q&A sessions where you can get your questions answered. You can attend either in person or virtually, and we will answer all of the questions that you may have. I want to thank everybody for everything you do and for listening to the training today. And we look forward to working with you for spring 2022 and answering any questions that you may have. Thank you.